Okay, welcome back guys on this wonderful Wednesday for what is going to be an XRP video. We're going to be doing a lot in this video. We're going to be starting things off with looking at the revelations, the recent revelations in regards to an XRP ETF being facilitated. Now, just yesterday, I believe it was Bitwise's filing, and the CBOE filing for an XRP ETF has now been acknowledged by the SEC. This is really going to start that timer in regards to an approval. And I see no reason why an approval isn't coming. Certainly just a couple of days ago when we reported it in our daily market update, we saw that a judge had kind of reinstated, or at least reiterated, I don't think it was ever unstated, the fact that XRP is a commodity, not a security. And then we're going to look at obviously what took place last week, which was Grayscale's trust has been acknowledged in regards to the conversion into an ETF. And why I want to look at this, and I want to ask and answer the question of what's going to happen when an ETF is facilitated. Because if you look at when Bitcoin had its ETF accepted or approved, it was on January 2024, and the price tanked. And I think that had a lot to do with the sell pressure that came from Grayscale having to sell their Bitcoin that they held and essentially convert it into, or from a trust into an ETF. The same thing happened with Ethereum. Is the same thing about to happen with XRP? We're going to be asking and answering that question. Certainly they've had their, or Grayscale and the New York Stock Exchange have had their B19 or 19B filing essentially acknowledged. Also, this, is just getting the clock rocking and rolling. So we're going to be starting there. Then we'll be diving over to some price action. Markets have pulled back somewhat, but XRP is in a sensational spot, ladies and gentlemen. Not only do we have that bigger pattern, ultimately, it's doing what's very normal and healthy when you approach an all-time high. You typically will pull back at all-time high resistance and set up that continuation. And that's what I think XRP is doing today. And then we're going to talk about what Trump did yesterday in regards to retweeting on his Truth Social an article that was titled "Donald Trump's Effects Bumps Ripple Labs US Deals XRP Gains." Very interesting, this coming from Trump. Ultimately, Brad has met with Trump himself, and actually you guys will know we've been one of the first people to actually say that instead of challenging the United States, Ripple and XRP are actually going to enable it globally, and we've had nothing but confirmation since we said that nearly a couple of years ago now. And we're going to be looking at an older clip from Rosie Rios. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. She previously worked at the Treasury. She's got links with the Fed, so she's got clear links to the Trump administration. She says something that was very interesting about a year ago in regards to public-private relationships. Now, this is interesting because we know the US is going to adopt a digital currency, likely in the form of stablecoins. However, the central bank themselves aren't going to be the issuers of them. We'll look at a clip of Jerome Powell saying this was not going to be the case just a few weeks ago, or a week ago, I should say, last week. And then we'll be reiterating just the important role that stablecoins are going to play, essentially all fronted by David Sachs, who of course is the crypto czar, but confirmed by literally everybody. This technology, rather ironically, having spawned out of Bitcoin, is doing the exact opposite in regards to challenging the traditional financial system. It's actually going to enable it even further, certainly the dollar dominant system. A lot to get into, guys. Let's dive into it all. Let's start things off with some XRP ETF news. And the most recent is from James Seyfarth. Great guy to follow along with Eric Balanchunas. New, as expected, the SEC just acknowledged CBOE, which is a clearinghouse, and Bitwise invests XRP ETF filing. So we knew this was coming. This now essentially starts the clock for an approval. And last week, or it may have been the week before, I can't quite remember, the SEC also acknowledged Grayscale and the New York Stock Exchange's 19B4 filing to list an XRP ETF. This was mostly expected, but officially means the clock will start soon for this and Dogecoin. And of course, Dogecoin was underneath. So the probabilities of this taking place are quite high. I think there was a timely reinstatement or kind of reiteration that XRP is not a security. That couldn't have come more timely with the approvals or the acknowledgements at least actually taking place. We've got a far more friendly SEC or regulatory regime. The question really is, well, what's going to happen? Because if you look at Ethereum, and we'll dive over to the Ethereum chart, Ethereum had its ETF approved round about here. So this is May 2024. This is when an Ethereum ETF was approved, and the price did this. Now, rather interestingly, Bitcoin did the exact same thing. This was that bull flag. I'll just show you the bull flag that we were looking at, ready for continuation. We've already made that first flag target all those weeks and months, and I can't believe it's been a year since Bitcoin's had an ETF. It's been the most successful ETF ever. I personally think you're going to see more inflows in regards to an XRP ETF than certainly Ethereum. And there was an initial sell-off, then there was a spike up, and then there was this bull flag that took place. So what's going to happen with an XRP ETF? And I think that the negative sell pressure from both Ethereum and Bitcoin really came from Grayscale's trust, where they essentially will have to sell the underlying assets to convert it and rebuy them essentially, or go in a roundabout way to facilitate that. A lot of the kind of outflows essentially came from Grayscale for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, causing that negative sell pressure. Now, people are asking, well, what does this mean for XRP? We know we're going to get an ETF. I don't think it's going to have quite the same ramifications. If you look at their ETF trust, it only has $12 million in terms of assets under management. And this was updated yesterday. So the sell pressure, and if you look at the volume on XRP, this is going to be completely negligent. It's not even going to touch the surface. So I don't think that worry that people have in regards to the effects that Grayscale have had with both, this kind of Bitcoin, look at this for a spike up and then a sell, and then it sort of went in the direction it wanted to, and there was a lot of Grayscale selling here in regards to outflows, and then once that was done, the trend resumed. Or Ethereum, for example, this ETF was approved in May, and it just sort of sold off, largely due to Grayscale's conversion from the trust into an ETF. I think we're going to see that with XRP, but there's not billions of dollars worth of XRP in the trust. It's 12 million. So don't worry there. I think the XRP ETF is an amazing thing, not a negative one. Before we jump over to the ultimate plan that they have in place for us and how XRP fits into all that in regards to the digitization of currency and the enabling of some sort of surveillance, one world government, whatever, let's talk about price action, because we've not updated you. And the crypto space has been going for a bit of a pullback. And we'll start there, because one reason we focus on the smaller time frames is pretty simple, evident, and obvious. Or one reason we focus on the larger time frames is pretty simple, evident, and obvious in regards to the fact that we're not fussed about short-term price action when we have a bigger target taking it to $19. XRP has actually held up better than most altcoins out there in regards to the recent sell-off and the recent kind of lackluster Bitcoin price action. And really what we're focused on is the bigger pattern, which is this kind of multi-year, 7-year wedge-like pattern that's going to take you to $19.27. I do believe you're going to get there. And really all XRP has done, and we told you guys to expect a pullback at all-time resistance, is ran into all-time highs and is having a pullback. It will see continuation out of this and likely go to the $4.30 mark, $11, and then $19.27. And if you look at how this broke out, we've always called for a kind of 2017 repeat, had this initial move. Where did it run into? All-time highs, pull back, and then that next leg sort of ensued. And that's exactly what's on the cards for XRP today, guys. Don't believe me if you don't want to. We've already proven the XRP haters entirely wrong thus far, and it's only going to get so much worse for them and the Bitcoin maximalists. But from a price point of view, if you look at XRP against other altcoins, yeah, it had this kind of liquidity event. But ultimately, and that sort of took place, was it Monday on the back end of the tariffs, or it could have been the DeepSeek event that sort of shook the stock market and had effects for risk. Ultimately, this has got a broad, beautiful, bright future ahead of it. And we have absolutely no worries. And we think from a price point of view, this is perfect. And to focus on that big pattern is important. Let's move on to some really interesting news. Donald Trump from his Truth Social account. But the fact that this is his official account and he's retweeting a CoinDesk article that says Donald Trump effect bumps Ripple Labs US deal, XRP gains. And why did Brad go and meet these guys in the White House? Why did he do that? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's because they're going to look to use and utilize it. We already know they're actively looking to use and utilize stablecoins, and that's one of the main focuses of the Crypto Czar's kind of task force, and we'll hear from him in just a second. First of all, in fact, let's do that now, and then we're going to talk about Rosie Royce. So let's sort of recap on what the Crypto Czar actually had to say about stablecoins in the hearing, or the sort of press conference that was recently put on. You can see Scott Bessett behind him. Let's dive into that.
I want to say additionally, We're excited about working with both the House and Senate on stablecoin legislation. I know Senator Hagerty introduced a bill today. This stablecoins really have the potential to ensure American dollar dominance internationally, to increase the usage of the U.S. dollar digitally as the world's reserve currency, and in the process create potentially trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. treasuries, which could lower long-term interest rates.
Just a short clip. We've played many more of them of the crypto czar David Sachs, kind of reiterating that to more of a degree. Now, the interesting thing is with stable coins is the dollar will be digitized, but it's not going to come from the Federal Reserve. And let's play a clip of that. It's essentially going to come from private companies, just like private companies enable the internet and the US globally from a technologically data-driven point of view. And we'll look at what Rosie Royce had to say, or Rios had to say about that about a year ago. She's on the board of, this has been known for ages. Some people have had sort of snippets of it and they've been able to put the puzzle together. It will become just public soon that actually XRP is going to be adopted by the United States to further its role, along with probably Circle predominantly issued, or USDC is predominantly issued on Stellar, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the Fed chair saying they're not going to facilitate a CBDC. So who's going to enable this digitization of the dollar? Private companies. And Ripple is in that key spot.
So can I have your commitment that as long as you're the chairman of the Federal Reserve System, that we will never have a central bank digital currency?
Yes.
Thank you for that. I think that's extremely important. It makes me very happy to hear you say that.
Boom. There you go. No CBDC. Well, who's going to enable all of this in the digitization of the dollar and the furtherment of it? It's going to be Ripple. And we are going to look at what one of their board members, Rosie Royce, who has over 30 years of experience in the public policy and investment management. She served as the 43rd Treasurer of the United States and was the CEO of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. So directly impacted with money and the US Mint. She led efforts to place a female patriot on US currencies for the first time in over a century. After resigning in 2016, she received a Hamilton Award, the highest honor bestowed in the US Department of Treasury. Royce was a long-serving Senate-confirmed Treasury official, starting on the Federal Reserve Transition Team in November 2008 at the height of the financial crisis. She was appointed as a visiting scholar at the Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Studies at Harvard University with a focus on millennials and post-millennials. She is now the CEO of Red River Associates, a real estate investment management consultant, and serves on the board of American Family Insurance and Fidelity Charitable Trusts. So this is a big fish, and they've got many of these on the board. Let's look, certainly given all the recent revelations that we've seen with stablecoins, and this was always the plan, at what she had to say all the way back in 2013. They've been telling you what's coming for years. Let's dive into this.
I'm Rosie Rios, former Treasurer of the United States and current board member of Ripple. What I like to talk about is really kind of this intersection between government and innovation. Certainly coming from the Bay Area, born and raised in Silicon Valley, I've seen a lot of change over time. And what I love is the conversation is really starting to happen in a constructive way where I think we as a region, we as a country, and perhaps we as a globe can really think about the future of fintech and who the stakeholders are and how we can make this effective for everyone. So when you think about growth, it's not just kind of GDP growth, which of course is a big part of the economy, but it's also where new growth comes from. And that usually comes from, certainly lately, in technology and innovation. So I think the benefit of why business and government should be working together is, again, providing that level of certainty for further expansion, further growth, and certainly more jobs for the economy. So blockchain is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And so it's not just how to facilitate commerce. There are other applications, whether it's NFTs, whether it's, selling real estate, whether it's, any type of financial ledger that can be recorded for posterity's sake. This is here to stay. And it's important and incumbent upon the government at every level, whether it's local, whether it's state, whether it's national, to really give some thought as to how those applications are going to benefit them and benefit everyone. But I think what's most important is, what are those guardrails? What are those tracks that we can lay down in order to move forward in a way that really blazes the trail for future growth and future opportunities that we don't even know are there yet?
You know, these people knew what was coming probably since Ripple, and it's probably designed entirely to enable this new kind of financial system. But there's Rosie essentially highlighting the role that sort of private companies like Ripple are going to play with governments, and the rails and kind of safeguardings or guardrails are likely going to be standards like ISO 20022, etc., etc. We did a great video with Smoke on all of that, also Vandal. Ladies and gents, that's it from me. The picture couldn't be clearer. I don't think, or I think an ETF is going to be massive for XRP. I really do. It's already seeing impressive inflows in regards to ETPs around the world. Obviously not coming from the United States and is keeping up with Ethereum on some of those. The ETF is only going to enable billions to flow into it. The sell pressure from Grayscale is going to be a fraction of what it was from Ethereum and a tiny fraction of what it was from Ethereum. Bitcoin, so I don't think it's going to have the same effect. Ultimately, from a price point of view, we're still tracking that big pattern. It's getting there. It's getting closer and closer. These things don't just happen overnight, but it's going in the direction we said it would. And in regards to this grand plan that Ripple is essentially going to enable the digitization of the dollar and the globalization and democratization of it, it's all coming to fruition. They've been telling you this for years, and that clip from Rosie was an interesting one. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.